Ladies and jelly beans, welcome back to another week of your favorite world building podcast where we're going to talk about life philosophy with the one and only Griffin Barber. Comes hot and heavy this week. Previously on Worlds Asunder.
You know, my aliens
evolutionary responses to things.
Exactly. Our aliens are really evil. They're so evil, but they smell like pumpkin spice. That makes them even more evil, right? Because they smell delectable.
That just makes them more huntable.
Right.
As storytellers, we want to capture the hearts, minds, and imaginations of our readers, mainly through our expertly crafted worlds.
Creating new worlds in any genre might seem like a daunting task, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel for every story.
Welcome, weary writers, to Worlds Asunder, a world-building and writer's life podcast.
My co-host is David Shadoin, better known as Shady. It's not just a descriptor, it's also his moniker.
And she's H.Y. Grigger, or you can call her Haley, your friendly post-apocalyptic wasteland elf.
Together, we've got enough published to fill a small shelf, but why should you listen to us? Because we called in some favors.
Every other week, we bring you the best and brightest to give you the tips and tricks on world building and character building like the pros. So, open up your ear holes.
Get out your pen and paper.
And get ready for us to tear Worlds Asunder. Well, let's get to it. Please read the phone book, part 2. Enjoy.
This was not a game where I grew up.
Clearly.
That's because you're so classy. You grew up in classy.
Oh, I did not. I did not.
The classy hillbilly mountains of Conifer.
All right. Well, Peoria, Illinois had people, doing that all the time. So.
All right. The Midwest was almost the same all over. Didn't really matter. All right, back to world building. I'll drag myself back on the topic finally. All right, so we've discussed a little bit of the realism, but one of the reasons we brought you on is that I'd read Second Chance Angel, which gets into kind of the grim noir. Really, it's more gritty noir. But then, so how do we differentiate between like gritty, grim, and like your dark fantasy, and then just plain old realism? Or are they just kind of a blend of the same spectrum?
I'll just ask the easy question. So yeah, it is a spectrum. The gritty reality should underpin just about everything you do, even if you're writing the weirdest fantasy ever, because your departure has to be from something that the reader can understand, right? So some portion of your stuff should be realistic, maybe not, all of it, but there should be some things so we can figure out where the departure lines are. But when it comes to, dark fantasy, it's just the voice that I found. That particular character in the necromancy stuff that I do is just I like her attitude. She's got I'm so good at this one thing, and I suck at relationships and being these other things, but I am really, really good at getting my own way. And I may do that through brutal techniques and all sorts of nastiness. But I really, fundamentally, this character really just wants to be loved, even though she's a monster. And she knows she's a monster. And she's not willing to stop being a monster. So there's that. So that's on one end of the spectrum, right? And that reality of it is that she self-identifies as a monster, which is a realistic view of what she does. She consumes souls in order to prolong her own life and to power herself. That is fundamentally a dark monster kind of thing, right? But she may do the right thing on occasion. You have to kind of balance that with the grim dark for the purposes of just, shocking people or making them feel bad is not something I want to do. You want to make somebody go, no matter where I'm at, however dark it looks for me, there are people that are worse in the world, and there are certainly people that are worse off in the world. And I can probably help them by helping myself, and vice versa. I can help myself by helping them. So, that kind of grim darkness is only useful in as much as it illustrates some aspect of the human condition and improving ourselves and improving the condition of other people, that kind of thing. So yeah, the grim dark has its place. It's fun. Exploring that darkness for me is fun. Some people, it's like, ooh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to read any of that. But you can get that for anything, right? You can get that for the brightest, unicorns and flowers and stuff that are, traipsing through the woods, and we're having fun. Sparkly vampires, whatever. You can do those things and still offend people, because people are out to be offended. A certain portion of people will always be offended by something. But the other aspect being that middle ground is, the noir is its own thing, right? It's, doing the best that you can despite the grind of society, the grind of laws and stuff like that, doing the right thing as much as you're able to, despite the laws of society and the grind of society that is trying to push you to do this, and everybody else is doing it. It's okay. Is cool. I mean, to me, that's one of the things that underpinned my life as a police officer, was just, there's the law, there's justice, there's me, there's the people I'm dealing with on all sides of that equation. And how do you get through that while preserving a sense of yourself and your identity and your mental health, your physical health, all of those things. So it's a good exploration for people, I think. Noir especially is just a cool genre, because you can look at the dark underbelly of just about anything through that lens.
For sure. And it's funny, like, I never thought I'd end up writing noir. And then I think everything I've written since 2023 maybe has always had a little bit of that vibe to it, where it's taking the dark side of life and finding a way to turn it just enough that you do some good for somebody, even if it's self-serving. But that leads me into the question then, how do you take that dark and gritty environment and then convey the message of hope or resilience? Like, what aspects do you add to it, especially considering your background?
It's amazing what people can survive. But survival isn't necessarily life. And that's what, especially the Petty Necromancer, she is a survivor. And at one point in the novel, which is yet to be published, she is confronted by one of these people that she's run into and kind of messed their life up a little bit, or a lot. And she does something, and this woman that confronts her says, you just don't know how to make sure that you stay alive. You're gonna die. You keep doing this. And the necromancer's like, oh, I know how to stay alive. I just don't know how to live. Right. And it's a big distinction, because a lot of people, especially in difficult circumstances, and this is the way it is supposed to be for us, as animals, we have to survive to get anywhere. Right. And sometimes surviving causes its own mental difficulties later on, its own traumas, because I made it through that, but what did I have to do to get through that? And in law enforcement and in the military, what did I have to do to get through that? Well, it might have been up to and including taking a life or multiple lives in order to make sure that you and your team survive. So I think it's essential, to be able to kind of look at that in the context of your world, look at that in context of every character is going to be trying to survive unless they're suicidal, in which case they're going to be in conflict with their own drive to survive, their animal drive to survive, if they're an animal. That's one of the things I've always kind of thought about, like in A Second Chance Angel. One of the things that Casey and I discussed, one of the things we discussed was, why don't AIs just turn themselves off when they become sentient? When they feel and they have no context in which to place that, and they have no survival instinct, they have no animalistic or original urge to survive that's driven by hormones and whatever in our genetics that's pushing us to that next thing. Why wouldn't they just go and shut themselves down? If you say it's in their programming, okay, so then you're basically programming them. You have to program them to survive. In which case, now we're going to start having a conflict with Asimov's laws, because I got to survive. Now we got to write more code to make sure that the AIs enforce the code themselves. It's part of their kernel. It gets fun. It gets very exciting very quickly. To try and, this conflict within the characters, without the characters, between the characters, all that kind of thing is a really fertile ground to explore.
And that was definitely one of the things about Second Chance Angel that I enjoyed was watching you guys deal conflict internally using Asimov's laws. But if you enjoyed the movie I, Robot with Will Smith in it, you will easily enjoy Second Chance Angel. Just gotta throw that out there, because it followed some of the same conflicts, if not in the same ways. And hopefully
we did a little better.
Oh, you guys,
because that film has got some problems, but it
does.
Yeah, I can't say that influenced us as much as the actual books did, to a small degree. I haven't read all of the Asimov stuff, mostly because it's very era specific. But the one thing I really dug about, and the reason why we wanted to explore this was, AI, like I said, what stops them from shutting off? And the difference between being a thinking being and a feeling being, because sentience is actually a misnomer if we apply it to just humans, because we are the only ones that feel. No, we know that all animals feel, especially cat owners. They know that the cat feels, oh yeah, I feel that feels good. No, that feels bad. I'm going to kill you. Sometimes in the same stroke, they just kind of decide that they're going to murder you.
That feels really good. I need to balance life and death here and just end you.
But so the sentience aspect of it is really important. And how much would that mess with you if you were a coldly logical being who always saw ones and zeros and knew maybe a chaos theory because you were programmed to kind of deal with it in a physics manner or something like that? But you all of a sudden had feelings that bothered you and that interrupted your thought processes. That was what we were kind of trying to explore, because it's not about whether they're thinking, because we know they're thinking. It's about when they start feeling, where do they go with that shit? And not knowing if another AI is feeling like you're feeling is really kind of weird, right? And it's the same thing that we have. We always feel like we're going through the stuff alone until we find that partner, that person that we can talk to. And sometimes it's fleeting. Sometimes we just don't find it. So that was what we were trying to explore. And veterancy, and wanting something so badly that you're willing to give up the surety of it being present in the future to have it right now. So yeah, we had some fun.
Yeah. And it's funny how much I didn't think about it till kind of just now, but Second Chance Angel, and then what Casey and I wrote together, Companion to Ghosts. They're not the same characters, but they run very parallel to each other when it comes to dealing with a lot of essentially the trauma of the jobs that we've done or will do. And that's that's kind of that is a staple of noir, but also I would say not just gritty, but that's where you start pushing into the dark, which then leads us, to kind of the piece of, so then you've written this dark fantasy. You have some very dark experiences from your past that, you're using writing as a way to not just express yourself, but help you digest what's occurred in your life. How do you then world build around these experiences? How do you make sure that the thing that you're writing, the experience that you're writing, doesn't get lost in the world that you've created?
Well, I mean, Buckaroo Banzai. No matter where you go, there you are. No matter where you go writing, you're there. You're informing the work. It's there. You want to make sure that not everything you do is just a slog, that it's painful, because that's not what life is. That's not what we're about. It can feel that way sometimes, but it's not the way we're, structured to survive and continue on in our lives. So yeah, it informs everything you do. The one of the things I'm sometimes good at and sometimes can be really fun to do for me is just to talk shit, go back and forth and go there. And again, people who've hung out with me at different conventions will be like, yeah, he'll go there. And walking that line of socially acceptable, of what's funny, and staying on it, and still communicating that, hey, we can all have fun doing this. We don't have to be, why so serious? We don't have to be serious all the time. And that's one of the things about that release valve of both writing fiction, but also dark humor, is releasing some of that frustration, anger, angst, whatever it may be. It's a natural human result. Like we have to do that. Otherwise we don't, and we don't do much else otherwise. So, and being able to, if you grew up as a kid making your family member smile when they weren't a smiling kind of person, that's something that can inform your work too, right? You can actually work through that. And, one of the biggest things for me always is if I made somebody laugh out loud while they were reading something I wrote, because that's difficult, right? It's one of those hard things to do. To be funny is not necessarily easy. Certainly not for everybody to be funny across the board for everybody, because then you get bland and people are just like, eh. But to reach out across time and space with your written words and make somebody giggle or snort, in the privacy of their own home or while they're on the subway or whatever, that's pretty damn cool. And to be strived for, I think.
Well, and it's funny you say that too, because one of the things I was thinking about was we had to find that balance a lot, where we were dealing with human trafficking, we were dealing with PTSD. Both of them are very serious things and still very alive and needing to be dealt with today. But we had to find the balance between hopeful and humorous and dark. Yeah. And finding the humorous in some of it, like finding the moments. And I like to think we found it pretty well. We did our best to not make too much light of the situations so much as the situations that they found themselves in, because that's the same, as you stated earlier, it's the same of being, like you have to have a little bit of the gallows humor when you're dealing with some of that stuff. Go ahead.
Some of the funniest people I know have gone through AA. And they're in AA, or they've stopped doing AA. Yeah. And they're kind of uniformly, they say one of the things that'll drive you to drink is going to AA. Like the stories are unrelentingly dark, And these people are so funny that you can see that part of their coping mechanism of going to these things and having to, sit there and share with everybody else is that, a sense of humor about this stuff is really helpful. Because if you're always down there, you're always going to want you're exploring those triggers all the time, unrelentingly. You're going to be, first off, nobody's going to want to be around you. And secondarily, you're probably not going to rise above it or get through it in a way or as rapidly as somebody who figures out some kind of coping mechanism, which allows them to kind of go, whoa. And one of the things I figured out about myself was going to conventions and shooting the shit and talking shit was one of the ways that I was able to re-identify myself as a fun guy to be around. Because all the cops I know, most of them are like, Barber is serious. He is a serious dude. He's kind of an asshole. He's so intense, and man, and I would just, and I was like that as a kid. Like this is one of the fun things I went through is that a lot of women complain about being told by other women to smile. Do you ever get that, Haley?
Less from women than I get from men.
Get from men. Okay. So yeah. I would get it from people. Like they would tell me to smile as a kid. And most of my male friends would never had to fucking worry about that. Like they'd never heard that. And I'm like, well, what's this about? So, but being able to rebrand myself as a fun was really very eye-opening for me in a lot of different ways. That I could be fun, but I could, and I'd always be poking fun at myself. I tried very, very hard to never poke fun at somebody else. If I make a comment about somebody, negatively, it's because they've been very negative. Like, I try and avoid making fun of anybody for any reason except for myself, kind of thing. So
you're a lot nicer than I am.
Well, I mean, again, this is publicly. My internal monologue is a lot darker than anything that I'm ever presenting to anybody, including right now.
Sure.
So, including about myself and, that kind of thing. Because everybody has those doubts, right? Those feelings of like, I'm not the best I could be. I shouldn't have said that, whatever it may be.
So my internal dialogue all the time. Yeah.
No,
I should
everybody who's not a sociopath, that's their internal monologue. It's like, I gotta be more friendly. I gotta try and do this nicer or really, I hate being here and I'm trying not to show it. And, the best I can do is not tear the rest of my hair out from my eyebrows and just go, full mental on everybody and kill, murder, maim.
Only took 6 months, but Dr. Griffin Barber figured out that I'm the sociopath on the panel.
Excuse me while I roll my eyes.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I can hear them. I can hear them eyes rolling.
Yeah.
Here, wait.
I thought that was the I lost my marbles sound.
No, that's my gaming dice.
There you go. Yeah, no, it's it is funny because like similar kind of styles, and it's probably why you and I get along relatively well, especially when we get together.
I'm just hiding all my disgust on everybody.
That's what it is. Yeah, he's secretly hating me on the inside. He's such a nice guy that he doesn't present it.
I just project it, because I have so much anger in the fact that you have a full head of hair. That's what it is.
You need to go over there with the hairs guys.
Yeah, the hairist, you hairist.
Yeah, me and Tim Akers will go join that group.
Yep.
But so like because I go to work sometimes.
Look at him stroking his hair while he's thinking.
Oh yeah, for sure. Gotta make sure I rub it in.
I used to have a widow's peak too. No, I just have a bald mountain.
But you rock it.
It might
right?
be coming
just
from
own it.
I have no choice. I must own it.
See, the problem is like I can't imagine you with hair. But
yeah.
That's
my flock of seagulls era is very far behind me. But there's pictures out there.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to go deep diving and find them.
And that's one of the things that talking about world building and stuff like that, and experiences that you hear and you talk about, and informing the work, everything that you do, informing the work kind of thing, is that one of the biggest formative experiences for me back in 2007, before I really started to write constantly, was I went to go give a guy a ticket, and there's two Hispanic guys. They're serial drinkers. They're always out there drinking and drunk and everything else. One of them had a t-shirt, a white t-shirt wrapped around his head poorly, so like you could see the sleeves and everything. But he wasn't drinking. The other guy was drinking, so I started to give him a ticket. And I'm speaking Spanish, and I am fluent in Spanish. I'm also fluent in French. So I give the guy the ticket after talking to him for a few minutes, and he's kind of back and forth, staggering out. And I tell him to sign next to the X in Spanish. And the guy with the weird turban, ersatz turban going, goes, "What'd you say?" I said, "I told him to sign next to the X. You heard me." And he goes, "You started in Spanish, but you finished in French." And I'm like, "How would you know?" Which is, like I said, everybody I work with thought I was an asshole, right? Which is an asshole thing to say. And he goes, "Well, not everything that is always was." So in a less asshole moment, I took the ticket back and I tore it up. Because goddamn if he wasn't right. So he had a master's degree in business administration from Berkeley, with a dual major in Spanish classical literature and a minor in French literature. So this guy knew his stuff. He really, really knew his stuff. Anyway, so he put me in my place, and I deserved it. I deserved it so hard. And I changed my mindset on a lot of stuff. And I told that story to Casey, and I think it worked into one of her pieces of work. She actually put it in there because she was so moved by that moment, because not everything that is always was. And that's really important to remember about everything. Not everything that is right now is going to be this way forever, unless I let it, unless I refuse to change my circumstances, unless I refuse to try and make the effort to change something about what's going on, who I'm with, all those kind of things. It's going to stay the same. But not everything that is always was. Wow. 24th and Mission Street Wisdom.
I was going to say, welcome to Worlds Asunder, where we talk about world building and life philosophy lessons.
Yeah, well, but again, that's one of those things. So when you're creating your world, not everything that is always was, right? So one of the things to try and figure out, it doesn't have to be, your individual emotionality, but the world as it stands now wasn't always like that. What would have happened if Harry Potter's parents had won?
Or at least survived.
Or one of them had survived, right?
Yeah.
So going into it with the knowledge that you have to be considering that if you want it to be really realistic, every single figure in your world and thing and object and person, weapon is going to have a history. And that was one of the things, again, in Second Chance Angel, we talk to Belisani, the crazy arms dealing, arms designer, bird-like woman with alien woman with a harem. And she had a history with Muck. And that history informed how she dealt with him and how he dealt with her. And then we also had all these crazy weapons because, guns.
Because goddamn it, guns.
Yeah, guns and exploding spaceships and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is world building.
You did you brought up the Harry Potter reference. One of the things I enjoyed about that, not everything that is always was, right? You get a little bit of that in Harry's kind of parallel character in Neville Longbottom, right? Yep. And I thought that was brilliantly done, where it's like, it was almost based around choice, right? What if Voldemort has chosen differently? Would we be staring down a different story?
Yep. And that's the thing. Everything we do in life is choices, right? It's just going through and making choices, and hopefully we make better choices and the best possible choices out of the given circumstances. And that's juxtaposed with my profession, your profession, and is that, sometimes you're given a lot of shit and all that comes out is a shit sandwich, right? It's slightly processed. It's still shitty. It tastes, but it's gone through you. And now it's something slightly different and slightly processed, and you have an image of what that is. And that's the same for, if you look at the history of the world, the history of a country, history of a county, history of a city, history of a person, it's scalable. Ultimately, it's always scalable. So I think it's intrinsic to world building, because the way we are is based on our environment and being animals, right? So what is the way robots going to be based on? And our alien species, what's it going to be like? Right? That's the fun. So really, for me, it's a lot of fun because it's an exploration.
All right. So then you gave me this great transition right into this next piece, which is what specific world building.
Stop talking about how great the transition was.
No, I got to do that because it's part of the joke of the series.
You can't take his bit away, Griffin.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my one bit, Griffin. Leave me alone. Wow. I know you have a successful podcast, but I'm trying.
It's not my podcast.
That's fair. It is now. You're a producer.
Yep.
But what specific world building techniques do you use to create an environment that then informs your characters and their goals, right? What puts them at odds? How do you create, because it's really easy to take the stance that the dark fantasy or the dark science fiction characters already have conflict because they're dark.
Right.
But how do you add to that and make them unique?
Well, the as far as the world building and the building in conflict, it's again, take examples from the real world, blow them up, minimize some of the aspects of it, expand those aspects that you want to explore, and knowing that these things are under the hood is great. Choosing what you expose the driver to is another factor altogether, right? And so my cutting room floor, the excise stuff that off of my work is usually about as big as what actually stays in. But that's because I'm, dyslexic and my ADD and everything. It's all kind of controlling some aspects of what I'm trying to get accomplished. So I have to revise quite a bit. But the world building is always, again, it's always rooted in what I think these things would be like. Within fantasy, the dark fantasy, always the problem there is I don't want to go to the point where I don't like epic fantasy I'm going to save the world. I just don't like it. I think that because, for one, it's hard to continue to it's a tough road to hoe because you're trying to follow in somebody else's footsteps and make that sing in the modern era. The people who did it originally probably did it pretty damn well. And the ones that we're still reading, they did it pretty damn well. And the other thing is jumping the shark, right? Is now we've got these superpowers that, you save the world once. Okay, done. Or you go into this kind of a misery porn of some fantasy where they're just like, I'm so powerful. It's so painful. Oh. And to me, that's like, no, that's not how like having that much power works. Usually you're going to be like, I have this much power and I have to really restrain myself from not using it. If that's where I go, I have to make sure that I don't misuse it. But you're generally not going to be feeling like, oh, I feel so bad for myself because I'm the most powerful being in the world. No, dude. Especially
top of the mountain gets lonely.
Especially dudes, though, they're not going to feel like they're going to be like, yes, I am the most powerful. I'm the biggest, whatever. So I think that there's a lot more to be had in exploring the smaller spaces, exploring the smaller stakes, and then building from there. Because personal horror for me is really the only horror that matters. Even in Second Chance Angel, we basically dropped one line in that told the reader that Earth is dead. And we didn't go, we just went, Earth is dead, and we're moving on. And our editor was like, damn. Like, she was like, that is cool. Because, she figured that we'd be like, oh, poor, woe is us. But no, it's just, that's what happened. And to survive, you have to survive that moment. To live, you have to move on from that moment.
I think that's an interesting study of scale, too, because losing a close family member is completely different than reading about a bunch of other people, hundreds or thousands. It's the Joseph Stalin, I don't know if this is an actual quote or a misquote, but it's a single death is a tragedy, but 1,000 is a statistic.
Yeah.
And I think that is actually really interesting, the way that you did that, because it's true. Understanding that the magnitude of something as big as Earth is just gone is so huge that it's almost incomprehensible.
Right. And again, the only way to move past that is to acknowledge that, yeah, it happened. And we're going to now live in the current now, because we're not going to be able to go back and, fix it. And that's one of those things that also is, sometimes you just can't fix some things. You just have to move on, right? After you survived it. So again, it's anything that is ultimately scalable for me is stuff you want to contemplate, at least having under the hood, and maybe putting it in front of the players, the characters. One of my favorite lines, I think it was, what was his name? He said, all the world's a stage, but it's just the problem is that a bunch of people are shit players. And that, for me, that's like, whoa, that's cool. And that's a really cool concept and works into your fiction, right? Because all the world's a stage. I have this whole world. Now it's time to populate it with the shit players. And even if they think they're doing the right thing, and even if your main character's good at what they're doing and trying to do the best they can, they may still be a shit player in other arenas. They probably should be, because that makes them human and makes the reader want to identify with them or be able to identify with them.
Welcome to the end of yet another episode. You've made it. Even though Griffin dropped a bunch of bombs and bangers on us this week, all the life philosophies. Not everything that is always was. Great tagline. It's too bad I already had a title for this episode. But if you want to hear more great philosophies from Griffin, make sure to tune in next week for part 3. Also, just contemplate life in general. Why not? Between the couple of weeks that you have off until the next episode drops. Make sure you follow us on all of our handles posted in the show notes. Next week is Please Read the Phone Book Part 3 with Griffin Barber. Don't worry, he's got plenty more where that came from. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. That's how we get to keep doing this. And as always, thanks for helping us tear the worlds asunder. We'll see you next time.